I don't have any siblings, but I can imagine how it may be really annoying to have a brother/sister who is much more successful in life than you. Even if you are on good terms with your entire family, there is no escaping the comparison between you two. People would constantly look at you and try to decide which one of you is smarter, or better looking, or more powerful, or a better Devil May Cry game. A flawless segue. DMC Devil May Cry has a permanent brand on it, which would never let this fast-paced spectacle fighter with quite unique combat mechanics and top-notch visual style escape from the shadow of its much more successful and famous older brother. And that's a shame. Because if we would judge this game about an edgy young punk who kills demons and makes stupid, charming puns in his free time, for what it is rather than for what we'd like it to be, then we would see one of the best action games with a simple but effective plot which aims to introduce us to this colorful, totalitarian nightmare of a world where people live side by side with angels, demons, and of course the worst horror of them all, the consumerism. DMC was a great prologue, and obviously was meant only as a first chapter in the long epos of this Americanized cursing Dante, who only has begun his journey to become the legendary demon hunter and not just a confused young kid who still thinks the word fuck somehow makes him cooler. But we will never see the second chapter of this tale. With underperforming sales numbers and mixed fans' responses, this whole universe was permanently shut down. And although it meant that Devil May Cry could go back to its roots and make one of the best action games of all time, I'm still a little bit dismal about the fate of this Sum 41 style Dante. During the original trailer for this reboot, he was hated for being too emo and edgy, and then when the studio changed that, he was hated again for being too bland and boring. It's almost like no matter what would be the direction for this new iteration, people would still hate this Dante. And part of me understands why people reacted like that. The IP for this game was taken from the original developers and given to completely new people with the completely new goal of making it more mainstream and appealing to the Western audiences. This whole situation had a vile smell of a cheap cash grab, and DMC fans didn't want to see their beloved franchise becoming another pachinko machine simulator. So the revolt against this reboot is understandable. However, this game wasn't a cheap cash grab. It had a thought put into it, it had style, it had charm, and I'd even dare to say it had a soul. But people expected something else, and regardless if the changes in this reboot were made for better or for worse, it didn't really matter. The greatest sin of DMC Devil May Cry was that it tried to be something else than its older brother. And also that name, which is just a war crime. But if there wasn't a long history behind this series and a very specific set of expectations for its continuation, then maybe people would judge this game for what it is and not for what they want it to be. As long as there is a Devil May Cry in that name, people will only see what has been lost and refuse to accept any new directions. This game should have not been called Devil May Cry. But again, then the sales numbers would have been even lower. It's almost like there is no way for this game to win. And perhaps you simply can't win when you have such an impossible weight of expectations attached to you. I love Dark Souls 2. It's a game which is filled with memorable encounters, great boss fights, and a very intricate world for you to explore. But a lot of people hate it. And that hate comes from the fact that the first Dark Souls was just too successful. It became a cult classic, a game that everyone knows about, a genre-defying piece of video game art. So how do you follow up something as legendary as this? How do you iterate on a formula which is already considered flawless by hundreds of thousands of people all over the world? When you are on such high pedestal, every single little thing you change or try doing differently will be weaponized against you. Your own success becomes your worst enemy. Dark Souls 2 was put into an impossible position where it needed to continue innovating while maintaining all the countless things that it was expected to have at the same time. And the problem with this game is that it went too far from its predecessor. It became too different, too unique, too far from what the fans had expected. But it's only through trying new approaches and directions one can continue to improve. As much as I love Dark Souls 3, I can't stop thinking about how it deliberately decided to embrace its existence in the shadow of its former success. It's still one of my favorite games of all time, but at the same time when I play it, I can't shake the feeling of how its past success made it impossible for this game to move in any new fresh direction. And I don't think it's just me who sees it like that. Despite what other big studios would have done if they'd hit such a gold mine as Souls series, the third game was the last one. Its creators moved to a different setting, different style of gameplay, and made something that has completely no connection to what made them famous in the first place. A move like that is a gamble, a huge, potentially life-changing gamble. And I can't express how much respect I have for them for deciding to make such a bold step into the unknown and uncertain lands. Even if I don't find Sekiro as much appealing to me personally, I'm still immensely glad that it achieved the level of acclaim which it did. Because it means that its creators can continue to take risks and try new things without having to rely on producing the same sets of ones and zeros just to satisfy the ever-increasing set of expectations that its previous successes had created for them. I hope that Elden Ring will finally move on from being just another little brother of Dark Souls, and I'm bitter that DMC died without even being given a chance to be something else than the heritage of its own name. Success is a funny thing. The more I think about this little hobby I have here, the more I'm afraid of actually becoming successful in it. If tomorrow I'd somehow blow up and my videos would get blessed by the almighty YouTube itself, then I think I'd be terrified. I don't find myself a particularly creative person. But the thought of being stuck in the never-ending cycle of giving people the constant stream of content makes me feel uneasy. If this would become my job, how much could I allow myself to innovate and change? Could I even change at all? Or would I just become a factory belt which continues producing that same exact thing that made me quote-unquote successful in the first place? I don't know. Perhaps I will never know that. But I think the next time I'm going to talk about Ubisoft and its quote-unquote successes. See ya.